Thanks to Shapr3D for sponsoring this video. Well, I didn't think that we'd be back making another 3D printing video so soon, but here we are. And it's because I bought this sweet Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar. And let me tell you guys, this guy sounds awesome. But one thing I want to do to it is just raise it up just a little bit, maybe 2 inches, just so that it's aimed more at my ear level. And so I want to model and 3D print some feet to sit underneath it. But I know that once I raise it up though, the wires behind it are going to be exposed. So I also want to add some wire management behind it. And guys, I know I'm gonna get some hate in the comments for this, but I also think that this is gonna be a great opportunity to show you guys another practical use of Shapr3D and how to model something around an existing object. But before we dive into the tutorial though, I'm sure you guys know what I'm gonna talk about. The modeling portion of this can be done in the free version of Shapr3D, but in order to export the model into any slicer programs, you do need to upgrade to the pro version. But don't worry, Shapr3D does offer a 14-day free trial, so you'll be able to complete this tutorial without incurring any extra cost. And for those of you who maybe don't care about the modeling process and just want the file for this, I will upload the 3D model to my website for you to purchase, if that's something you like. Or better yet, if you want, you can upgrade to the pro version of Shapr3D and get 10% off by using my code BevelishCreations10. And it's also just a great way to support my channel and what I do. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take some measurements. So I've already had the chance to take a look at this, and I know that there are a couple holes in the back for mounting this to the TV or to the wall. And I know I'm gonna get comments about this, so I'll just say this right now. With my current setup, I can't mount this to the wall or to my TV, and I don't really want to make another 10-minute intro just explaining why. My current plan is to mount the feet to those mounting holes for stability. And so let's take a measurement right now. So from the bottom of the speaker to this top edge, it is about 68 millimeters. And then from this bottom edge to this front edge right here, it is about 77 millimeters. And then from this bottom edge to the middle of the bolt hole, it is about 25 millimeters. Okay, and I think that's all the measurements we need. So let's go ahead and we are going to launch Shapr3D and let's start a new project. So as always, we're gonna start by setting our units to millimeters and also lock the grid size to 1 millimeter. And then for this project, we're starting from the front plane. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. And we're gonna start by sketching a regular rectangle just randomly in this space right here. And make sure that it's not snapped to anything. And let's double tap on this guy, and we're gonna make it into a construction geometry because this is basically just a side profile of our speaker. And now we're gonna set the dimensions that we measured earlier, which is 77 millimeters deep by 68 millimeters tall. And like I said earlier, I want to raise the speaker up by 2 inches, right? So we're gonna set the distance from this bottom edge to the ground plane to 50 millimeters. Okay, so just a tip for when modeling something around a reference shape that also have a lot of dimensions. I usually don't like to model on the same sketch plane because then there's going to be a lot of dimensions that might overlap, which can get quite messy. So I usually like to take an extra step and create an additional sketch plane. So let's go ahead and exit this sketch plane, and we're going to go under Add, Construction Plane. And we're gonna keep the type as offset. So let's go into this view so you can see what I'm doing. And we're gonna keep the type as offset. And we're just gonna basically pick the same plane that we were sketching on before. And then click Next. And we're gonna keep the offset as 0, so we're not changing anything. And click Done. So now if you go under the Items Manager, you can see that we've created an additional plane right here. So let's close that real quick, and we're gonna go under Tools. And we are going to project this entire sketch, so all 4 lines, onto that new plane that we just created. And then make sure that under the projection results, we've got sketch selected and also linked sketch is turned on. And then click Done. So now if we go under the Items Manager, you can see we've got 2 sketch planes. And if we hide the first sketch plane, we can go into our second sketch plane and those dimensions aren't there anymore, right? but all the lines are locked down and we can't make any changes to these lines. But what's great about what we just did is if we need to make any changes to the profile we just created, let's exit that sketch. We can still go back to the original sketch. Let's hide the first one and make changes to this one. So let's change it to 86. So if this changes, our projected sketch will change as well. So let's undo that. You can see that change is reflected in both of the sketches. So yeah, just a tip for when doing something like this. I know there's only 3 dimensions in this particular reference geometry, but if you're doing something more complicated, it can get pretty messy. Okay, so back to our sketch, and let's exit the items manager. Let's go normal to that sketch. And we're gonna start by sketching a line along this back surface. And we'll start at this bottom left corner, and we're just gonna drag it up like this. I'm gonna set that to 70 millimeters. And I'm gonna do the same thing starting from this bottom left corner along this bottom edge. And we're gonna set that to 79 millimeters. So both of these are just 2 millimeters longer than our reference surface because we're taking into account of any tolerances from me just eyeballing the measurements and also any shrinkage from the plastic. Okay, so now that we have this, let's start by sketching a little lip on the top so that, we're kind of grabbing onto the speaker from the top. So we're just gonna go from this top, we'll go right and then up. And we're gonna come back later and set the dimensions, but yeah, for now we're just gonna start sketching these lines. Okay, and then we're gonna come all the way down, and I think I'll make this at an angle, something like that. So all the way down to the ground line, and then we're gonna come all the way right. So we're extending past our part. Now let's come in and start setting some dimensions for what we already have here. Let's make the length of this lip right here 5 millimeters long. And then the thickness of the lip, let's set that to 5 millimeters as well. Now for this back face right here, I think I'm gonna set that to 97 degrees. And yeah, we'll come back later and see how that looks. Usually 7 degrees is what I set the legs on my furniture builds. And it usually looks pretty good, but yeah, we'll see how that looks on something small like this. As for the thickness though, let's go ahead and pick these 2 points right here. And we'll use this setting here and we'll use the vertical setting. And we'll set that smallest distance to 10 millimeters. And that should be pretty good. Now, as for the front here, I definitely don't want it to just come straight down, right? And since the speaker has a curve to it, I'm probably gonna add some kind of curvature to this guy as well. So yeah, let's zoom in here and we're gonna add a lip to this front just like we did for the top. So let's go up and then to the right, and then down. And then we're gonna go right at an angle. And then we're gonna come straight down to the ground. And let's pick this point. We'll just drag it over until it snaps to that new vertical line right there. And yeah, let's set some dimensions. I did take this measurement earlier, and I know there was a little lip at the front of the speaker. And that lip is only about 3 millimeters tall. So we're gonna set this height right here to 2 millimeters tall. And then just like we did earlier, the thickness of this lip is going to be 5 millimeters. And I don't know, for this vertical wall right here, let's set it at 25 for now. And I think I want to make this bottom a bit longer. Yeah, let's make this vertical one like 3 millimeters and see how that looks. I do want to make this bottom edge a bit longer. So right now it's 137. I want to make that 140. See how that looks. So something like that. And then I want to make this, let's make it, I don't know, 5 millimeters. Yeah, that should be good. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. Let's get this guy extruded. So let's push this guy up 30 millimeters and we'll take a look at how that looks. Okay, so once we have that, let's start making some roundovers to make this look prettier. So yeah, then we can see if we need to make any adjustments to sketches to make it look better. So the first one I want to do is obviously this front area, because that's the area that I'm really struggling with envisioning how it's supposed to look. So yeah, so let's pick this edge right here, and we're just gonna pull this as far as it'll go. It looks like it's giving me an error, saying the range of blend on face is what? The range of blend on face is too large. And you can kind of see, like if I go too high, there's something on the bottom here that is not quite filleting. That's not quite rounding over. I don't know if you can really see this on the camera, but yeah, if we zoom in here, it's really hard to see like what the problem is. It's almost like it's trying to taper into this corner here. But yeah, whenever something like this happens, a really good experiment to try to see if you can get this to work is by clicking on this little gear icon right here. And if we switch over from G1 to G2, you can see that changed, right? It updated, and now the fillet went all the way through. So basically G1, G2 are just two different algorithms for CAD programs to calculate curvature. I don't really think you need to worry too much about them. Other than that, if you're ever having trouble creating roundovers or fillets like what we just had to deal with, switching between the two might help you solve that problem. Okay, so next I wanna add a hole on the side face right here so that we save some materials. So let's double tap on this face so we start sketching on it. And I'm just going to use the offset edge tool with loop function selected. And I'm just going to pick one of these edges and we're going to start pulling this face in. And let's pull that in 13 millimeters. And let's exit the sketch. And now we are going to push this new surface all the way through to cut out our hole. And then let's add some roundovers to smooth out these edges. I'm thinking of doing these separately. So I'm going to do the back corners first. So let's pick these back corners and we're going to pull those to 12 millimeters. And then let's do this top front one first. And I think I'm going to do this one. Yeah, I'm going to do a really large one for this one. Yeah, let's do 30 millimeters for now. And let's do this bottom corner and we'll make this one smaller. See how that looks. Let's do 6. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's smooth out these corners for the lips. So let's tap on those two, as well as the front edge right here. And we'll smooth those out to, let's do 6 millimeters. So something like that. Okay, now I think all we've got left is the hole for the bolt, right? Which I think we measured to be 25 millimeters from this bottom edge right here. But instead of sketching on this face here, because we also need to make a recess for the bolt head to sit into, right? We are actually going to project that edge onto a new plane. So let's go under Tools and go down to Project. And then we are going to project this edge right here onto this default left plane here. You see where that just showed up? And once again, make sure that sketch is selected and also linked sketch is turned on and click done. Now let's tap on that line to go into that sketch, click on normal to sketch, and we are going to sketch a line. Select the line tool. We're going to sketch a line from this midpoint all the way up. It really doesn't matter how long this line is, but it's still a good idea to just lock it down in place. And let's select both of these lines and turn them into construction lines. All right, so once that's done, let's sketch our 2 circles. Let's sketch both of them on that line. And so sketch one, drop the tool, and then sketch the second one. Make sure that they're both concentric to one another. Now, as far as the hole diameter goes, the bolts I'm going to be using are M5s. Now, as far as the diameter of the holes go, I'm going to be using M5 bolts. So I'm going to make the through hole 7 millimeters in diameter for clearance. And then the bolt head was measured to be 8 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to make this to be 10 millimeters for clearance. And then let's set the distance from the center to this bottom edge right here to be 25. Okay, once that's done, let's exit the sketch. And we are first going to push this small hole all the way through to cut our through hole. And then let's select the larger hole. So I'm just going to keep pushing this until it starts to make the cut, which is at 32 millimeters. And since the thickness of the bolt head was 5 millimeters, we should go at least the thickness of that, which is 37.5. And of course, we should go more than that depending on the total length of the bolt. So I'm going to go until 40 millimeters. Let's type that in. Okay, and that would leave us, let's see how much material there is, 9 millimeters. And the length of the bolt I have is 20 millimeters long. That means I've got 10 millimeters going into the speaker, which should be more than enough. Okay, so let's leave it the way it is. And I'd say the main structure is completed. And like I said earlier, if we set the speaker on here, the wires are going to be exposed on the back, right? So I want to add some kind of clipping features along the back here to help control the wires so that the wires can stay behind the risers and then drop down behind the media console. And I actually got my inspiration from one of my favorite camera equipment companies called Condor Blue. And they make one of these things called Mondo ties for cable management. It's a really simple design that works really well. And I'm not going to create a separate clip like what they have here. Instead, I actually want to model those arms to be molded into this back surface. So since our back surface is angled, we're going to go under Add, and we're going to create a new construction plane. And for the type, we're going to go with perpendicular to edge. And we are going to pick one of these edges right here. And then we're going to click Next, and then pick the edge again. And we're just going to slide this point up and down to choose a point. I'm not really sure where we want to place this point, but we don't want to place it too low. So this is going to be the position of our top arm. So let's place it somewhere along the top of the hole. So maybe like right here. Maybe about right here is fine. Let's click Done. So let's double tap on this face and just check where exactly that position is. So we're just going to draw a line and just roughly place it. So about 35 millimeters. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's exit that sketch. And now let's double tap on that new plane and we're gonna start sketching on it. Let's rotate this view real quick so we're looking at it from this view. It's just easier for me. I mean, if that previous view works for you, go right ahead. Okay, so we're gonna use the line tool. And first we're gonna sketch a line from this point to this point. And let's select that line and make it into a construction line. So this is going to be our reference line right here. And now let's use the line tool again and we're gonna start sketching out that profile of the arm. So it's something like this, right? Let's go down, right. So it's like an L shape. So something like this. And then let's close off that arm like that. And yeah, I'm choosing this direction because from this view, the wire is going to be coming from this direction. So I kind of want the wire to wrap around this side first. I think that's going to give it more control instead of coming in like this and then this way, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's why I chose to make the first arm this way. Just in case you're wondering, hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so once we have this, let's give it some dimensions. Let's make this total height 12 millimeters. This total length 25 millimeters. And then the thickness of the clip right here, let's make it 6 millimeters. And the thickness right here should be 6 millimeters as well. And let's set the lip to be 3 millimeters. And of course, this thickness needs to be 6 millimeters as well. Oops, let's pull this up and let's make this lip 3 millimeters tall. And that leaves our gap here to just 3 millimeters, which, I don't know, that seems a little bit small. So let's make this total height here 13 millimeters. So we just add 1 more millimeter right there. So yeah, 13 millimeters. So we got 4 millimeters there. And finally, let's set this distance right here. So this is 3.8. Let's see what this distance here is. 1.7. So what, 2.5? Should be in the middle, right? Yeah, 2.5 and 2.5. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's good. So let's grab this surface that we just created and we're going to extrude that up 8 millimeters. Yeah, so we've only got 2 cables that we need to pass through this. So 4 millimeters should be fine, and it doesn't really need to be like really big or anything like that. And yeah, let's add some roundovers. So we're going to start from this inside corner right here. Let's do R5. And since the thickness right here is 6 millimeters, this outside corner is going to be R11. And let's do the same thing over here. Yeah, let's do R3 so that the fillet runs to the edge. And this one should be R9. And let's finally add a small roundover to this edge as well, so that we don't cut the wire when we insert it through. So 1.5 should be fine. All right, so now we've got one of these. We're gonna need another one, right, for the bottom, but we don't need to repeat that process. We just need to double tap on this guy, and we're gonna make a copy. But don't just drag it down yet, because right now this arrow is using the main axis, right? So we wanna grab this point and then drag it onto this edge right here. So now this arrow is going along this edge. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and drag it down. Like, let's do 20 millimeters. And I think that is pretty good. Okay, now let's drop the copy tool and we're gonna rotate this guy 180 degrees this way so that the opening faces the opposite direction. So let's double tap on it again. And before we rotate it, make sure we are placing the center point on this surface right here. Now, one caveat with using this is there's no way to precisely place this point right now. If we go into the left view, you can see when we rotate this guy, the position is actually gonna change. So we actually have to come back and kind of reposition it a little bit, which is fine for this application. And since this is a beginner level tutorial, I don't want to go into too much depth on how to set this more precisely. It goes a little bit above the scope of this series. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It's not really going to affect the functionality of this part. So yeah, let's just tap out of that, and then let's double check to make sure that it is flush on that surface. And that guy looks good. And if we go into the items manager, let's hide the planes that we don't need and the sketches we don't need. As you can see, we've got 3 separate bodies. So usually at this stage of the project, I will use the union tool to combine these 3 together, right? But remember, we need a second part. But the second part don't really need these clips. So what we're gonna do is double tap on just the main body. And we are just going to make a copy of this main body like this. So as you can see, we just made a copy of just this guy without the clips. Okay, and let's tap out of that. Okay, so once we have this guy separated, now let's drag to select everything over here. And we're going to use the union tool to combine these guys. And we're going to just do keep originals off and click done. So now we've got 2 separate bodies. And close the items manager. And there we go. So we are pretty much done with the modeling part of this. But before we export this over to the slicer, we want to position these for 3D printing. So I actually think it might be better if we lay these flat. Yeah, like I said before, I'm not really that great at 3D printing. So let me know in the comments whether or not this is a good choice. Yeah, so for now, oh, actually one more thing, guys, before we export this. I want to add some roundovers to these corners here just to make it a little bit stronger, because keeping it sharp like this is no bueno. So let's round over these edges as well while we're at it. Doesn't need to be big. I'm just keeping it like 1 millimeter. Oops, I forgot to do the bottom edges too. Or did I select these? I don't remember. Yeah, so just 1 millimeter. And then we definitely want to round over these corners here where it attaches to the main body. And we're gonna do like 1.5. Okay, yeah, so once we have this, now let's lay these flat. And to do that, let's double tap on this body, and then we're gonna drag this point just anywhere along this bottom edge right there. Make sure that you're actually putting it on this bottom edge. And we're just gonna use this arrow right here to lay it flat. So 90 degrees. And we're gonna do the same thing for this guy right here. So make sure you're putting it on this bottom edge right there and lay it flat. And there we go. And there we go. Okay, so now we just need to go to Share, Export, Export Project, and then we're gonna select 3MF. And then for the project name, we're gonna do Sonos Arc Feet. And then we're gonna click on this one so that we can just airdrop it to my MacBook Pro and then send it directly to my Bambulab Studio to get it 3D printed. And that is another successful project. What do you guys think? I mean, I know it's not for everybody, but I'm really happy with the way it came out. The fit is almost perfect. I kind of wish I didn't do the extra 2 millimeters in terms of the fit. But other than that, I actually really like the way that looks. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but I'm really happy that now while I'm sitting on the couch, it feels like the sound is more pointed at my ears. And I'm really happy that the wire management system is working out great. This is why I'm sitting on the couch. I can't see the wires hanging on the back. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this project as much as I did. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to leave me one of these and let me know in the comments. Also, if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.